Hey friends, it's Natasha. Today I'm going to show you the Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. This is their deluxe package where you get everything you need to teach your child how to read. These things are kind of extras. You don't have to have them. You can use just this book, but I thought that these extras would be a bit fun. I do have a video on how you can combine the Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading with some Evan Moore workbooks, and I'll link that one down below. I do have experience with this. Years ago, I went through this entire book as a remedial program for my dyslexic daughter when she was in 4th grade. She's now in 8th grade, so that was many years ago, but we did go through this entire book in 10 weeks as a remedial program. My now 2nd grade daughter, who's just about to go into 3rd grade, also used this book last year in 1st grade. And so I have lots of experience with this. Now, typically we just get it from the library, but I did purchase it this time. And so I wanted to show you a flip through of it, the kind of the scope and the sequence and the other things that come with it. So the first thing is the audio companion for lessons 1 to 26. This has all of the sounds for the alphabet. So it says rhymes and songs put the sounds in context in a memorable and fun format for children. The CD gives you easy to use audio tracks, allowing you to hear the correct pronunciation of the sounds of the English language. So I think this is perfect if you have a child who does not know all their sounds yet. If they do, you probably don't need this. But you also can get these pre-made flashcards. Now, you can make the flashcards yourself, absolutely, and it tells you in here when to do that and all of that. But if you don't want to have to make them yourself, you can get this package where you can have them already pre-made. So it does have all the flashcards. You will have to cut them, and you might want to even laminate them. That's really up to you. Let's take a look. I'll open this up and we can take a look more closely at them. So as you can see here, we have the alphabet right on top because that is where the lessons start for the kiddos. So there's nothing on the back there, it's just the front. So A, lesson 1, vowel card, the Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading. So it's just telling you, it just has the letter and tells you the lesson, which is really nice that it does give you the lesson that it comes up in. And so we've got all of these here. And then we even get into these cards where it has predicate cards. There we have a beginning letter card, subject card, predicate card. So these are in lesson 40, the who did what game. We've got sight words in here. We've got I Spy game. So anytime it tells you to make a card, either as a flashcard or a game card, you don't have to do that. It's right here for you. So that is really nice. It also comes with these Fun with Letters magnet activity set. So you get one that comes with the magnets. This is very heavy with all the letters and a board, and then you get another board too. So you do need both, and it comes with both. Now again, this is for some hands-on learning. You can just use the book. In fact, I've never actually used any of this stuff before. With my other 2 children, I've used this book with, but for my last little one, I thought she would really have fun with letters. Haha. Okay, so let's get into this book. All right, so if you have a child who doesn't know any letter sounds, has no idea, that is perfectly fine. You can start this book. Okay, so we have the part 1, which is the lessons, and then part 2, which is additional material for the ordinary parent. And that includes pre-reading, preparing a young child to be a reader, managing the reading session, encouraging a child to be a reader, questions and answer for the ordinary parent, remedial reading with an older child. The time to start is now, and that's exactly what I did with my now 8th grader when she was in 4th grade. Index to the lessons and key to phonetic symbols. I also have a blog post that I will link down below. I don't really use my blog except for a place to kind of collect information for myself that I can go back to. And I have proof on that this book, The Ordinary Parent's Guide to Teaching Reading, actually works because I have test scores from before my then 4th grader went through this book and after, and the difference at 10 weeks, we went through this entire book in 10 weeks as a really, intense remedial program, and the difference that made in her reading. And after that, she was reading on grade level, and she's continued to read on grade level. So I highly, highly recommend this book, and I have, actual proof that this really does work. Okay, so then we have the preface, and then it says you can begin with lesson 1 right away, or if you'd like additional guidance on reading readiness, pre-reading, and the reading process, managing the reading lessons, remedial reading, or other issues, go to page 346. So in other words, you can just open this up to lesson 1 and go, or if you'd rather read kind of all that stuff from part 2, you can go there first. Really, it's up to you. Okay, so we've got the introduction, and then we get right into the lessons. Section 1, short vowel sounds. And so it says you will need for the lessons a magnetic board with alphabet tiles, 3x5 index cards, or use the printed words cards you can purchase, scissors, pens, pencils, and drawing supplies, paper clips, yarn, magnets, and a dowel for one special activity. All right, and so this is scripted, okay? So it says here, lessons 1 to 26 are hear, see, and say after me exercises. The child is not expected to read words. Spend as many days as necessary repeating lessons 1 to 26 until the child has mastered each letter and the sound. In the lessons, the sounds of the letters are written with special notation, and a complete list of the phonetic symbols used in this book is on page 369. Okay. So here is lesson 1 where we have the vowel A. And it says right at the top you will need the following: a blank index card and a pen. You won't need that obviously if you've bought the pre-printed flashcards. And so it says right here, instructor, what this instructor you should say to your child. So you say, today we are going to learn the letter A. A is a special kind of letter called a vowel. All letters stand for sounds. Your tongue or lips do not block the sounds of the vowel letters when you say them. Watch my mouth as I say the names of the vowels. I will not close my lips or use my tongue to block the sound. And then prolong each vowel name so the child can see that you do not block the sound. So that's a note to you. You don't say that to them. So anytime it says instructor, you're actually saying that. Okay, and then you're using this book for the student too. So the student will look here. You're going to point to this letter and you say, there are 2 ways to write the little or lowercase a. You will need to know them both because different books print the little a different ways, and point to the letters below, okay? And you're just gonna go through and follow the lesson. So that's it. That's the lesson, okay? So this is a sit on the couch, curl up type of program. They do have a 2 review and 1 new type of philosophy. So in other words, you should go back 2 lessons and review and then do 1 new lesson. But obviously when you're at the beginning and there's not 2 lessons to review, you would just go back to lesson 1, review that, and then do lesson 2. And then by the time you get to lesson 3, you would review lessons 1 and 2 and then go to lesson 3. Now, it really depends on your child. If they've mastered it, you know, you can make this work for you. When I was going through this with my daughter in only 10 weeks, we didn't necessarily do that unless she needed it because we were trying to get through the book. It was a fast-paced remedial program that we were working for her. So it really just depends on your needs. Plus, she was older. She wasn't, 4 or 5 years old learning to read for the first time, but we were really filling in gaps for her there. So the first 26 lessons are all those alphabet lessons, okay? And then, see, after that, we get into short vowel words, all right? And so then, right after they know all those alphabet sounds, then they're going to immediately begin reading short vowel words. See, at, and am, and, add. Okay, pat, and then they're going to be reading words. Pat, fat, sat, bat, rat, cat, hat, mat. And then here is an example of when you would need the magnetic letters, the optional follow-up. Have the magnetic letters, these on hand. Give the child the necessary letters to form the first new word in the lesson, in this case, pat. Ask the child to sound out the word as he places the letters that you give him on the magnetic alphabet board. Do this for all the new words from this lesson. So there's these fun optional follow-ups for you to do. So again, you can always tell the words that the kids are going to be reading because they are in a larger font. Now, if this is too much for your child to look at this page and have like the instructor information and what they're reading on this page, you could write it on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper or whatever if you wanted. I've actually never felt like it was a problem to have it all on the one page. My kids I've used this with in the past, I've never complained, and it's been really easy to manage that when it was just all in this book. So we never actually had an issue with that. But as you can see already, we are on lesson 48. The reading is much more difficult, and so it just keeps going. It gets more difficult as you go along. And let's see, let me go to how many lessons there are in total. Yep, 231. Okay, so 231. The last one is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's so funny. But let's take a look at 230 because you can see the kind of words they are reading. They're reading multi-syllable words here. So, encyclopedia, veterinarian, dependability, individuality, autobiography, paleontologists, all of these words and then put into sentences because they're taught to break down the words into syllables, and they've learned all the phonics rules up to this point, and so they are able to break down words and read basically anything at this point. And so, the extraterrestrial creature wanted to do some interplanetary space travel. The first planet he saw was uninhabitable. Okay, so at the end of this book, your child is reading, like fully reading, goes from knowing the alphabet, or not knowing the alphabet, I should say, possibly, to completely reading multi-syllable words, basically anything you put in front of them. So then the question is, what do you do after this? After this, I'm just moved straight into reading chapter books, little chapter books, like Sarah Plain and Tall is a great first one to read after this book. So if you want to, have an idea of the level of reading, basically, when you finish this book, your child will be reading at approximately a 4th grade level. All right, so then we have this pre-reading, preparing your child to be a reader. We have all this information here, managing the reading session. And basically, this just gives you tips, try to eliminate excuses not to work on the lesson. Don't allow the child to interrupt you. Be in charge. Be sensitive to the child's pace of learning, and so forth. Encouraging the child to be a reader, and questions and answers for the ordinary parent. And it talks about how quickly do you move through the book, how early can you start. And it says, 4-year-olds can begin, many 3-year-olds even can begin this book. And let's see here. We have how will I know if my child is dyslexic? How can I teach my child to read fluently? And other little advice and questions there. I won't go through all those. And then remedial reading with an older child. The time to start is now. And then we have an index to the lessons, okay? And so this I found very helpful. And then the key to phonetic sounds. But let me go back to the index to the lessons. So this is really helpful in if you did want to use a workbook alongside this, which I do recommend those Evan Moore workbooks. Again, I'm going to link that video because they do flow really nicely with this book. But you can tell if your student has already mastered the vowels, you might just all the letter sounds, the vowels and consonants. You might decide, okay, you know what, we're just going to start on section 3. You could do that. You could also start, in the middle of the book if you really, really thought that your kid had mastered, certain things up to a certain point. But this just really gives you an idea of what you'll be working on. Now, do not expect to get through this book in a year or 10 weeks, as was the case for my other daughter. But you can really use this however you want. So in other words, if you're starting this with a kindergartner, you might go through this in both kindergarten and 1st grade, which would be totally normal, totally, completely fine. Or even kindergarten through 2nd grade. It's really, you need to go at the pace of your child because the point is to master the lesson before they move on. Or in the case where you really are doing a remedial program with an older child, you can do this very quickly. That means multiple lessons a day, but that's intense work. So it really just depends on the needs of your child and how you are going to use this book, because there is a 231 lessons. So there's quite a bit of lessons in this book. So I hope that was helpful to you and you got an idea of what this book is like. If you have any questions, please do let me know before, but I do highly recommend this book, and I will leave all those links below that I mentioned in this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things homeschool. Talk with you soon.